and the EU delegations, talking about, well, commending the people of Osun State for voting in what we consider to be a free, fair and credible election, calling on peaceful reruns tomorrow in the 7 polling units concerned, and really saying vote buying, voter inducement, intimidation must not happen tomorrow. So a call, a public appeal, if you like, commending what happened in Osun at the weekend, but also saying we are going to continue to observe, and we do appeal to everybody concerned, whether that's INEC, the political parties, or of course the voters themselves, to ensure that these reruns go smoothly without intimidation, without violence, and without vote buying.
Looking at 2019, the general elections in Nigeria, would you say that what has played out in Osun State, it's somewhat a picture of what to expect in 2019 at the general elections in February?
Well, it's always difficult to extrapolate from one state through to 36 states and the FCT. Obviously, the 2019 elections is a huge logistical exercise. And again, we've been working with INEC in helping them prepare for those elections in 2019. I think there are some lessons to be learned from Osun. I think they're broadly positive lessons. It's about ensuring that all the preparations are done well ahead of time, that the election materials are there, that the people, the election officers, the ad hoc staff from INEC are in place. It's about ensuring security to enable people to vote freely and fairly. All of those, I think, are positive signs of an improvement in the electoral process as we move forward to 2019. And as I said, I'd like to commend Professor Yakubu and the INEC team for the smooth running of those elections. And I think it augurs well. I mean, we're not very far off, of course, February 2019. There's still some way to go. I think some improvements do need to be made, as I've mentioned, in accessibility, in particular for disabled people, around voter education. But it's a complicated country. It's a complicated logistical exercise. But I'm confident that it will come off well. And then the key to that, of course, it coming off well, is that it should be peaceful, without violence, that the political parties appeal to their supporters to accept the result, even if they lose, you know, to be gracious in victory and accepting in defeat. But we'll see what happens when we come to 2019. The process itself, I think, is on a good track.
What can INEC do in terms of improving its operations? Because you do remember, of course, that just prior to these series of elections we've had from Ekiti State to now Osun State, they upgraded their software as well as hardware to try to see that the process is much more, we have an ease of process, really. But what more can INEC do, especially looking towards 2019, in terms of the operations, to see that it's even much better than the achievements they've recorded to this time?
Well, I think continue to work in the same direction. It's important that the card readers work. We know that there were some card readers which failed. I think in 2 of the 7 polling units, that's the reason why those particular polls are going to be rerun. Ensuring that all of the devices are in place, are ready, are working, are tested and tested and tested again to make sure that they all work, to make sure that the logistics work of all the people who need to be in position, and obviously to work very closely with the security forces to ensure that they are not in any way interfering in the outcome of the election, but are there in the background to ensure that people are allowed to vote peacefully. So I think INEC still has a job on its hands. But as I said, from what we've been seeing in these successive elections, we're seeing improvements along the line. There's still some way to go. It is a huge exercise for 2019. But with the help of the British, with the international community, continuing all the way through, and indeed beyond the elections in 2019, then I'm confident that we will see yet another expression of democracy at work in Nigeria.
Do you think, in your view, that it infringes on people's rights that phones are basically stopped from being used at polling points?
I think there's an argument to say that it makes sense. I mean, clearly, and we saw this in Ekiti, people were taking photographs of the ballot papers as they voted, and then were able to show to agents or other people who might wish to buy their votes the exact way, or who exactly they had voted for. So when you are trying to minimize the opportunities for fraud, for corruption, for vote buying, vote selling, then to my mind it does make sense for a very brief moment in time, and I know we're all attached to our mobile phones, but for a very brief moment in time, not to have them, so that the election process can be seen to be free and fair and transparent. So if that's within the rules and regulations, and I'm not the arbiter, I'm not the judge of that, then I don't see a particular problem with that short period when people are not with their phones.
Your Excellency, Mr. Paul Arkwright, we do sincerely thank you for talking to us on Sunrise Daily this morning. Of course, he is indeed the British High Commissioner to Nigeria. And Sunrise Daily will be back in just a moment. Join us again.